If your mother arrived at your big moment in full diva mode, shirtless dancers, magic fanfare, the whole spectacle, how would you react? Pride, embarrassment, or something else entirely? If you were a young dreamer in a crowd of thousands, hoping to meet your heroes, what would you do to make that a reality? Push through or give in to your anxieties? If your mission was to meet two legendary princes, but your heart longed for members of Team Dragon Force, which desire would you choose to follow and why? Find out this and more next here on For Your Mind. Hit it. All right, we are on location in Isle Kamal. It's nearing the end of the cycle. Kamal's own festival was already in full swing of celebrating. Colorful tents with vendors and attractions littered the castle grounds. The festival was full of dancers and performers. Some from even Opinad had even made it here. The gathering was so massive that it seemed as if everyone in the kingdom was in attendance. From the ground, Angelique could see Scott and Franklin. Her brothers were up on the palace's front balcony waving to the vast crowd below. The cheering attendees' voices grew louder at the realization that the princess was already in attendance. Her cloak had done poorly at disguising her. It was Kamal's Freedom Festival, though it was a praise service for all the dragon gods. Leochita would surely be the highlight. Explosions across the sky grabbed the public's attention enough for a glittery doorway to open. Giant, magically conjured, glittery green dragons now danced in the air above everyone's heads. Even Angelique was distracted, yelling out as a hand grabbed her and pulled her through the magic door. She was so angry at first that someone had the audacity to use a doorway. More so, Angelique was angry that she had been yanked through it. Soon, those emotions faded when she saw Chris. Joyfully, she grabbed him, hugging his neck. Her scowl soon returned, looking around for her brother, Scott. He had been the one who had pulled her through in the first place. Scott grimaced, closing his eyes, knowing she was about to punch him. Scott knew that it was forbidden to access a doorway without permission. He also knew that using forbidden magic was abuse of his title. It was the sound of Pup's squeaking baby growl that saved him from Angelique's wrath. Her other brother had been completely clueless that his sister had even arrived until that moment. The eccentric little dragon hopped around on Franklin's shoulder in delight at the sight of her. Frankie grimaced at the claw-induced pain that his companion had caused him at that moment. "How's my favorite little dragon doing?" Angelique asked in a baby voice, making sweet little faces and rubbing Pup's head. She wrapped her arm around Frankie's neck, aggressively hugging him simultaneously. Feeling oddly manhandled, he tried pulling away from his sister's strong arming while straining a smile. Angelique continued making silly faces at her brother's little companion. "Aw, Pup, you'll be a big dragon someday." "He is so happy to see you, Ange," Franklin said with glee, as she released him from a semi-chokehold. The warrior princess had no response to Franklin's heartfelt words. Angelique stopped everything to look across the crowded fields. She moved closer to the balcony, inspecting farther out. Where are Leochita and Diesel? Frankie glanced back at Chris and Scott. They knew that's all she thought about, especially on a day like today. They also knew that it was really T-Bolt she cared to see, not Leochita or Diesel. She glanced back at them. Chris and her brothers just shrugged unknowingly. The princess sighed with disappointment. None of the 6 have shown up? I haven't seen any of them arrive yet, Chris added. Scott looked up at Chris, then at Franklin, who both looked extremely guilty. Angelique just stared off, strolling along the edge of the balcony while running her hand atop the banister. Oh, I wonder if T-Bolt is coming, she sighed, blowing raspberries. Angelique was oblivious to their looks of guilt. She was more so daydreaming about the avian festival and her time with T-Bolt. She had been bummed at how quickly it was over. I mean, I know the 6 come for every kingdom celebration, but I thought he would have been here by now. Chris and her brothers just shook their heads at how sad she sounded. If only she knew who they really were. Maybe one day the Queen Mother will tell her. Oh, did he decide to stay in Silver City? Angelique pondered. Oh, maybe he's into some other girl. I'll kill her! She screamed aloud with anger, driving her sword into the floor. Chris, Scott, Franklin, and Pup stared at her, confused by her outburst. The low roar of excitement from the crowd increased again, pulling her from her temper tantrum. She heard Scott begin to yell with glee, completely out of character for him. It's Mother! Scott pointed to the Lady Dragon. She was glamorously being brought in on a silken litter. Chris moved closer to the balcony edge with Scott, eager to see the Queen Mother. Sweet Lord! His eyes widened at the sight of the 6 well-built, shirtless, muscular men carrying the Queen effortlessly along a path through the onlookers. 3 of them were on the port side, and the other 3 were on starboard. A few others in grass skirts danced barefoot around her, hyping the crowd. Cheers and applause erupted from their Lady Dragon, while the performers encircled her. Cheers and applause erupted for their Lady Dragon, while the performers encircled her, gyrating at the crowd. The castle's magic suddenly kicked in, triggering the balcony to lower. Making its way to the ground forced Chris and the others to hold on to the banister. Princess Angelique lazily returned a wave to her mother. She felt her mother was such a diva for putting on a show as if it was her day. Everett watched the lowering balcony. It was the only thing that could pull his attention from the mesmerizing dancers. The boy could barely contain his excitement. Prince Franklin and Prince Scott were right there in front of him. Everett moved through the crowd of people toward the lowered balcony, eager to get a bit closer to them both. The Herder clan had been standing front and center, rejoicing at the knowledge that the Queen Mother was destined to ride right past them. Oh my heavens! Anya turned to Thomas excitedly. Thomas hugged her, just as excited. She just looked right at me! Thomas noticed that there was another litter behind the Lady Dragons. Look, Everett, it's... He turned to his son, but his son was no longer there. Everett? After reaching the balcony, Queen Erionna was greeted by 2 more shirtless men. The pair helped her down before the litter continued to move sideways. It had to make room for the one that followed right behind. Everett stopped his forward progression and looked around. He was curious about who could possibly be in the other litter. He too wondered why Team Dragon Force hadn't arrived yet. The boy hoped it would be soon. The thought of seeing all 6 of Team Dragon Force again excited him. Leo Cheetah and Diesel were his favorites of Team Dragon Force. To him, there was no other reason to be here. Then he remembered his mission. Franklin and Scott, the 2 princes. Ugh, so many people. Everett looked around, trying to keep his focus. He knew his anxiety was becoming visibly apparent. He never liked crowds or people, but learned to live with them. If only he could take to the skies and soar above them. Even when they were at the Silver City Festival, he could never get this close to the royals. Maybe the 6 will join the Queen Mother and the princess on the castle balcony. He perked up at the thought. From his vantage point, he could see the Queen still waving to the masses as she walked onto the lowered balcony. I wonder if I can get into the castle and meet them face to face, Everett pondered, a sly smile now appearing at the thought. He slowly moved away through the crowd, keeping his distance from his parents. The boy could still see his father from where he stood. He gasped with alarm, knowing he had to move before his father could find him. Everett worked his way closer to the side of the palace. He began contemplating how he would get past the slew of guards along the bridge and side entrances. Whispers riding along the currents of the air swirled around him, but he shook off the sounds as just part of the lurking crowd. The Lady Dragon had heard the same faint whispers, but she knew better. The Queen Mother looked around suspiciously. Something was afoot. It's so nice to have all 3 of you together today, Erionna greeted them all, choosing to dismiss the whispers for now. Stepping through the balcony's exterior gate, she scurried past her children. Chris! Oh, what a pleasant surprise. Will you be staying the whole festival? Hey, Lady Dragon, he hugged her, knowing this was all an act for the sake of the princess. Nah, I just came to show some love to you and the family. I actually will be leaving in a bit to go to visit the twins. Well, love, it's just nice to see you. She held his face gently. She tried hiding her sadness. Seeing him always reminded her of past events. Say hello to your parents for me, will you? Oh, King Robert! Queen Gwen! You came! Smiled Angelique excitedly. Erionna turned to watch as the avian royals were helped down from their litter. The same half-naked men that helped the Lady Dragon to the balcony had escorted them. Angelique hugged Queen Gwyneth before speaking again. Are the princes going to be arriving later? The boys are holding down the fort, Ange. Robert hugged her gently before moving past her. He grabbed an apple from the royal fruit stand, choosing it over the marula fruit. After taking a bite, he asked nonchalantly, This come from Avian? Scott, will you be so kind as to conjure more seating for our honored guests? The Lady Dragon requested. Of course, Mother, he responded, shaking his body to get loose, as if he was about to perform something big that would take all of him. The Kamal Queen sneered, annoyed at Robert already. As Scott began, Erionna motioned her guests in the direction of the wall where the other seats were. Queen Erionna enjoyed showing off her son Scott's magic skills whenever she could. He was the only one who took after her in that aspect. The prince took a deep breath and began uttering an incantation. Skep, tui, magistus, stoal, vir, die, coniculike, gaste. Scott did not disappoint, as 2 complimenting chairs appeared. King Robert, Queen Gwen, and the others applauded the young prince's magical feat. Scott grinned, reveling in their praise, and bowed to his mother and their honored guests in response. Yeah, he made matching magic chairs. Lovely. Angelique scoffed, her words bitter as she dismissed the talents of her brother. She curtsied toward the avian royals, revealing that the real show is about to start. Angelique! Her mother shot her a sharp glance. Erionna pointed a disapproving finger at Angelique. The princess just frowned and looked away as she was scolded by her mother. Don't diminish your brother's accomplishments. Okay, enough chit-chat. Robert butted in, cheering her on and clapping his hands. Let's see what you got, warrior princess. Chris and her brothers joined in, whistling and cheering. Angelique grabbed the tips of her small skirt and curtsied toward the avian king and queen once more, while frowning at her mother. She stepped up on the balcony and lifted her skirt all the way. The queen mother shook her head. She couldn't believe her daughter's brashness. She went to react, but Gwen had grabbed her, looping their arms together. The queen laid her head against Erionna, looking at her with an innocent smile. Aren't you glad she's covered under there? The lady dragon looked back at Robert, who had giggled at her daughter's little trick. Erionna's disapproving eyes met his, and his smile faded as she put a finger to her mouth to shush him. Very well, then. She turned back and addressed Angelique. Ready to give our adoring subjects a show, daughter? The princess was aware her mother had given in, thanks to Gwen. Following King Robert, they all moved to the balcony's edge to watch. The avian queen winked at Angelique, causing the princess to briefly blush. Her mother, on the other hand, had looked upon her with a scowl. The princess returned said gaze. Mother. Ooh, ungrateful little, the queen mother huffed under her breath. Before she went too far and turned her daughter into a hen, or scarabadger, she cast a quick spell before speaking to the crowd. Mock, my ecosus in sprecher. She cleared her throat before speaking. Hello, and welcome all to Kamal's Freedom Festival. Her voice magically amplified, echoing across the masses. An enormous eruption of cheers filled the air. With pride, the Lady Dragon continued. Joining us today are our honored guests, the King and Queen of Avian. The multitudes hollered with excitement as Robert and Gwen waved. The collective voices of the Kamal people began to lower to a mumble as their queen continued to speak. Your very own Princess Angelique will kick off these festivities. She will lead our Emil Guard in a performance created just for your enjoyment. Your audience awaits, Scott whispered loudly to his sister as the Lady Dragon spread open her arms, directing her to the balcony's edge. Scott stepped closer to her, giving her a wink. Knock 'em dead. He then muttered another incantation. Leg ma sustar op en val ar terug af. And with a wave of his hand, his sister was lifted up. She kicked off the banister, making her descent look even more spectacular. Scott kept hold of her, dropping her methodically and elegantly to the front of the palace. True to her warrior princess form, she took a knee as she landed, supporting herself with her fist. She looked up to the crowd, flinging her hair back with such fierceness. Angelique grabbed her sword, stood up, and waved it in the air. The crowd went wow. Princess, princess, princess. Angelique looked at her left and nodded for Admiral Lipscomb to begin. The Admiral then signaled her mystics Lona and Apani. Together, they conjured a magic display that rose from the bottom of the left wall of the palace all the way up to the edge of the balcony. Angelique, dressed in her more ceremonial battle gear, now appeared on said display for everyone to see. The admiral stayed tucked in the background, watching carefully as her soldiers lined along the main bridge. Each one stopped, turned, and saluted the warrior princess. On cue, soldiers from around either side of the castle began to gather. They positioned themselves properly around her, falling into a tight formation. Admiral Lipscomb also kept her eye on the crowd, keeping tabs on her well-planted sleeper agents. The warrior princess and the others began a spectacular routine. Erionna managed a slight smile, proud of her daughter and the work she had done with these soldiers. She knew her little girl had worked hard on the choreography just to amaze the people of Kamal. All of a sudden, Erionna grabbed her head, overwhelmed by what she saw. Whatever smile the Queen Mother did show faded as a rush of images flashed in her memory. A white-haired man, draped in all white, appeared in her mind's eye. "Brother? Brother, is that you?" The whispers were back, and she knew what this meant. Oh no, the prophecy! All right, guys. That's the end of this section. What do you think? Did you like it? What did you like about it? Do you have questions? Well, I do. And now, to answer them, we're going to move on to the author's corner. Hit it. Okay, well, welcome to the author's corner. That was pretty exciting, wasn't it? You just learned exactly how Angelique is, how her and her mother's relationship is, how Everett feels about all of this stuff between the princess and the Team Dragon Force and all that, you know. And that's what our questions are going to be about. So without further delay, let's jump right in, shall we? All right, question number 1. Why does Angelique's jealousy erupt so violently when she imagines T-Bolt with someone else? Well, her reaction reveals the depths of her emotional investment and vulnerability, when it comes to T-Bolt. She's head over heels for that guy. I would say the short strike isn't rage. Maybe it is a little rage, but it's the fear, the fear of loss, fear of losing him to somebody else, the heartbreak that would come after that. All that in this moment when she should be focused on the celebration. Okay, question number 2. Why is Everett's anxiety so central to this scene, even amid magic and celebration? Well, Everett's internal struggle grounds the spectacle in emotional truth. His longing, discomfort, and hope make the scene relatable, I think. He's just not a spectator. He's a soul in search of connection and purpose, right? It's something he just feels drawn to these princes and the dragons. And you know the funny part is the one he's drawn to them both, and they're both the exact same people on the other end. You know, Prince Franklin is Leochita. Prince Scott is Diesel. You know, that the duality is insane. So I guess that leads us into the last question. Why are Leochita and Diesel's why are Leochita and Diesel Everett's favorites? And what does that reveal about his character? Well, Everett gravitates towards figures who embody freedom because he is a strong person. I don't know. He does have a touch of rebellion in him. I guess it's because he's a chameleon, right? And Leochita is, definitely their protector. That's what kind of draws him in. He does embody that freedom, like I talked about. Diesel, I don't know what it is about Diesel that he likes so much. I think it's because he likes Prince uh, Scott, Prince Scott, and liking Prince Scott automatically makes him like Diesel. It's something with him anyway, and we get to find out more about Everett in the next reading, which is it's going to be pretty crazy, pretty crazy. Anyways, his admiration reflects his own desire to rise above the limitations. What do you mean about that? Well, his limitations that he's like at that precipice, I think, where he's trying to break through. He doesn't even realize this, he doesn't realize any of this, but they're both physical and emotional, and the heroes represent that version of him, that he wants to be. If you remember, he, floating around in the water, he definitely wanted to soar above the skies. He could picture himself soaring over the top of all of Siak and seeing the town homes and the little small places, and like it's where he lived, where the little gardens and stuff, the communities. He could see all that, in his mind's eye. And I think that really makes him feel like he's meant for more. So, like I said, you'll find out more about him in the next reading. But for now, that's going to be it, folks. I would say like and subscribe to keep up with us because, like I've said in the previous video, I won't be reading the whole book. This Joker right here got a lot in it. I'm not reading all that for you, right? My goal is to get you to a point where the shit hits the fan. That's the only way I can say it. Everything kind of coalesces together, right? It all coalesces together, right, into this big kind of like thing where the meat and the potatoes of everything just kind of hits and the real action starts. So as soon as we get to that point, right, I'll leave it up to you. But until then, just keep on staying with me and reading with me, reading along, and we're going to get there. All right. Like I said, the next part with Everett is pretty crazy. You need to, tune in and see that and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Author's Corner. Toodles.